Steve Jobs was not just a founder, not just a visionary, not just the man behind Apple. He was someone who understood life, creativity, and human potential in a way very few people ever will. His journey wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect, but it was powerful. And today, I want to take you through the lessons, the mindset, and the story of Steve Jobs that can change the way you look at your life, your work, and your future. Steve Jobs once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." And throughout his entire life, he proved that sentence to be true. He was a college dropout, a wanderer, a curious mind with a relentless desire to create. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he trusted that the dots would connect someday. And that simple mindset, trusting the journey, is the first lesson we learn from Steve Jobs. Jobs believed that your curiosity is never a waste of time. Every small experience, every skill, every failure becomes a dot in your life. And even if you don't understand it now, one day those dots connect, and they show you the meaning behind your path. He didn't take calligraphy classes because he had a plan. He took them because he found them beautiful. But years later, that same knowledge gave the Macintosh its unique typography, something that changed personal computing forever. This brings us to the second lesson. Passion matters more than logic. Steve once said, "You've got to find what you love, not what is safe, not what society tells you, not what pays the most today. If you don't love what you do, you will give up when things get hard." And Steve Jobs faced more hard moments than most people ever realize. He was fired from Apple, the company he built. Think about that. Most people would be destroyed, but not Steve. He said it was one of the best things that ever happened to him, because being kicked out forced him to return to what he loved most: creating. During that time, he started Next and took over Pixar. Pixar would go on to change the animation industry forever, producing movies like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and Next would become the foundation of the modern Apple operating system. Without getting fired, none of that would have happened. The next lesson is simple. Setbacks are setups for something greater. Jobs didn't just survive failure. He reinvented himself through failure. He embraced it, he learned from it, and he used it to build something even more powerful. That's why he often said, "Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Stay hungry for improvement. Stay foolish enough to try things other people consider impossible." When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was dying. It was weeks away from bankruptcy. Most of the industry had written Apple off completely, but Steve Jobs didn't see a dying company. He saw potential. He simplified Apple's product line, removed everything unnecessary, and focused on building products that were elegant, simple, and meaningful. This ability to cut out the noise is the next lesson. Simplicity is power. Steve believed that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Whether it was the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, or the Mac, every product was designed with one philosophy: make it so simple that anyone can use it. Apple didn't compete on specs. It competed on experience, and the experience was always rooted in understanding what people actually wanted. This brings us to another powerful lesson. Great innovation begins with empathy. Jobs understood people. He understood their frustrations, their desires, their everyday struggles, and he designed solutions before people even knew they needed them. He once said, "Some people say, give the customers what they want, but that's not my approach. My job is to figure out what they're going to want before they do." That is why the iPhone in 2007 changed everything, and that is why Apple continues to influence culture, technology, and design. Another lesson we learned from Steve Jobs is that obsession is not a weakness when it is directed toward excellence. Steve wasn't trying to be average. He didn't want to build something good. He wanted to build something insanely great. He questioned everything. He pushed his team to their limits, not because he demanded perfection, but because he believed people were capable of far more than they realized. His standards were high because he believed something important: how you do one thing is how you do everything. Jobs once described creativity as just connecting things. He believed that creativity was not a talent given to a few, but the product of curiosity, observation, and courage. He encouraged people to see the world differently, to combine ideas from different fields, and to never stop learning. That's why he read widely, explored different cultures, studied design, and immersed himself in art and technology. Creativity for him was the intersection between passion and discipline. But perhaps the most important lesson Steve Jobs left us with is this: your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Jobs knew he didn't have time. From the moment he was diagnosed with cancer, he understood something that most of us ignore. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and unbelievably precious. In his famous Stanford speech, he reminded the world that remembering you are going to die is the most powerful tool to make good decisions. Because when you remember that you have nothing to lose, you stop being afraid. You stop worrying about the opinions of others. You stop living a life that is not yours. In the final years of his life, Jobs worked with a sense of urgency, clarity, and purpose. He knew his time was running out, but he kept building. He kept improving. He kept dreaming. And that's the final lesson. Leave something behind that matters. Legacy isn't about wealth. It's about impact. It's about creating something that continues to inspire, continue to help, and continue to move the world forward long after you're gone. Steve Jobs didn't just build a company. He built a culture of innovation. He built tools that millions use every day. He changed how we communicate, how we listen to music, how we work, and how we create. His life reminds us that a single person with a clear vision can change the world. So what can we learn from Steve Jobs today? Trust your journey. Follow your passion. Embrace failures. Simplify everything. Innovate with empathy. Push yourself to greatness. And above all, don't waste your time. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Stay foolish and make something beautiful before you leave this world.